Hey guys, Jarek here, going to be doing another video about rigs of rods. Now, I did say I wasn't going to post much of this game, and I'm really not. However, I do want to post another one because I did find a truck that actually does make me very excited. And let me first off go ahead and show you the map I'm going to be driving on for a little bit. This is the World Finals 9 freestyle map. There is a World Finals 9 racing version of this, but I'm going to be choosing the freestyle version just to kind of mess around. And here's the truck I'm going to be talking about. Monster Patrol. So this truck, I personally really like it, and as you can see, someone did a pretty good job of this truck, remaking it and whatnot. Pretty awesome truck. And here's why I actually really like this truck.
This will be why I like the Monster Patrol truck so much. So I got this yearbook back in 1998. Keep in mind, I was born in 1991, so I was only 7 years old when I got this. In fact, I just turned 22 a few days ago on April 9th, so I'm not quite as old as everyone seems to think I am, but yeah, I was fairly young when I got this. I got this at a show in Portland, Oregon, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I have my whole life, and I do love living here. The show happened in the Memorial Coliseum, which is the Portland Trailblazers' old arena. The Rose Garden did exist at this time, but it was still fairly new. It had just gotten done being built in 1995, and they didn't want monster trucks running around in the Rose Garden, so they had the show in the Memorial Coliseum. It's also cheaper. So yeah, I do remember that show, and at that show it actually ended up boiling down to the finals being between Monster Patrol and Barefoot. This is still back in the time when Bigfoot ran with the Monster Jam Tour. They currently don't run together, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, it's kind of cool to have something like this laying around. It's seen better days, but I still like having this laying around. There's a lot of cool old stuff in here if you're kind of into monster trucks and remembering the old stuff. All these old trucks that you just kind of don't see around. I think the only truck that's really around anymore at this point is just Gravedigger, and Bigfoot is still around, but they had some argument with Feld Motorsports and they won't run with Monster Patrol, so he might as well not exist, which is kind of disappointing. A lot of the old crashes, which are really cool. This one specifically, which is kind of one of those ones that has just really been around forever, because that King Crunch truck just destroyed its frame. Its whole roll cage is just entirely fucked for that. And I think the King Crunch truck is actually still around. So yeah, at this point, back when this tour was happening, the two biggest trucks were Gravedigger and Bigfoot. It wasn't Maximum Destruction being the second biggest, and that's kind of a cool fact. Monster Patrol was actually driven by Tom Mintz, who now drives Maximum Destruction. So, yeah, it's kind of cool to have this stuff laying around. Just kind of wanted to point out that's why I like the Monster Patrol truck so much. It'd be cool to see them bring it back, but as of right now, and as for the last, I think it's like 10 years, it hasn't really existed on any circuit. The old Snakebite truck, I think that's actually still going around on a few of the circuits. Gunslinger's still around. It's a pretty old truck at this point. Predator, as far as I know, and I don't really know exactly what happened to this driver. There's a lot of controversy. He drove Wolverine for a while, and then he just kind of disappeared. I heard something about him stealing parts or something like that. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but that truck pretty much went out. Predator, I'm not entirely sure what happened to it. It just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Black Stallion still runs on some of the smaller circuits, but not underneath the Monster Jam circuit. We did see him in the World Finals a few times, but I haven't seen him in quite a while. Sudden Impact, that truck is, not sure what happened to it. John Seesog drives a lot of trucks now. He doesn't drive the Sudden Impact truck anymore, so not sure what's happening to his truck. And then this is getting into a lot of these smaller, independently owned trucks. Bustin' Loose, that truck has, I'm not sure what happened to it. It was around for a while, but another one of those trucks that just kind of disappeared. And like I said, King Crunch is still sort of there and about. So yeah, this was before the days of Maximum Destruction, before the Goldberg truck, before the Team Mintz truck, before all that stuff. So it's kind of cool to have just laying around.
So yeah, that's why I like the Monster Patrol truck myself. As a kid, I just thought it looked really cool. Like I did say, this truck went to the finals against Barefoot in Portland, and it actually ended up winning, which is just kind of like the icing on the cake that the truck I like ended up winning. This was back before they did any of the racing that you're used to now. This is back when they did the racing where like you drive over a set of cars, do a donut thing around a flag, and then drive back over the same set of cars, and that was it. So this is way back in the day before everything kind of got changed. And you know, I'd like to see them bring this truck back, but I doubt they will. Had the truck in reverse. I doubt they will. It's completely possible to bring it back, though. This is a Tom Mintz truck, as I've said, and he has a habit of designing all of his trucks the same way. Usually they're front-engine trucks. Usually the balance is about middle to the front of the truck instead of middle to the rear, like most other people prefer it. And, yeah, his trucks are still floating around. There's a lot of them floating around, so it'd be completely possible to bring it back. All you'd really need to do is slap a different body on it, and then, hey, there you go, new Monster Patrol truck, but I doubt they ever would. So like I said, Tom Mintz used to drive this truck. I have an interesting relationship with Tom Mintz. Back in the day, I really liked him when he drove the Monster Patrol truck. He seemed real down-to-earth, seemed like a real cool guy, seemed really relaxed, did a lot of cool stuff with fans and whatnot. Over time, though, he just kind of started becoming a little bit of a dick. Now, when did this happen? This happened when he stopped driving the Monster Patrol truck because, you know, truck changes happen to most drivers. A few exceptions being like Bigfoot and Gravedigger. That's kind of always had the same drivers. You know, truck change happens. He started driving the Goldberg truck instead of the Monster Patrol truck. I don't really think that's a very good influence right there immediately because Goldberg is kind of a dick. I'm not a big fan of him. And when he drove the Goldberg truck, this is when Monster Jam started becoming a little bit more competitive. But this is back when they just started doing the Monster Jam World Finals, like what you're seeing right here. This track is based off Monster Jam World Finals 9. So it started becoming more competitive. It started being one of those things where there was a world champion for racing and freestyle every single year. And he started winning a lot of these world finals. He started winning a lot of the racing and a lot of the freestyle world finals championships. He started becoming a little bit arrogant. He started becoming egotistical, if you will. And he started showing that. He also started to be a very, very poor sport. If he ever lost, he would usually do something that was just really, really douchebaggy. For instance, I remember one specific race. He lost to Reptoid in the finals, which is a pretty big upset for that time. And instead of just, you know, parking his truck and worrying about freestyle like he should have, he drove over to the Reptoid truck, pretty much drove up the front side of his truck, destroyed the hood, destroyed the fangs on the truck itself. And, you know, it was just one of those things where you can't excuse that. And he did a lot of things like that back in the day when he drove the Goldberg truck. So, you know, during that time, I went from really liking him as a driver to just plain absolutely hating him, because he drove a truck I didn't like, and he just started being a dick. Well, over time, he went from driving the Goldberg truck to driving the Team Mintz truck, and then he went to driving what he drives now, the Maximum Destruction truck, which I don't think he'll ever change off that truck now, since Feld Motorsports is really behind him on it. And over time, it really seems like he's just gotten relaxed again. It seems like he's the same person we all knew and liked when he drove Monster Patrol. So, yeah, I don't know. He went from being real douchey to kind of cool again. He went from being cool to a douchebag to cool. Now, I got a chance to meet him again. I've met him quite a few times, but I got a chance to meet him again in Tacoma, Washington for the Tacoma Dome show. And I got a chance to talk to him for a good 20-30 minutes in the pit party. Things were going a little bit slow at the beginning of the autographs before everyone really showed up, so I got a chance to actually talk to him for quite a while. And he's a really cool, relaxed person. He also likes to do a lot of pretty good public relations type things. Like, for instance, if a kid walks up to him with his parents, they want to take a good picture, he'll do things like he'll raise the kid's arms, put him in that kind of like flexing pose, and then flex behind the kid next to his truck just to get a good picture. And he does a lot of really cool, relaxed things like that. So yeah, he's a cool guy now. But it's just really interesting to see how he went from being really cool to just suddenly a gigantic douchebag to once again cool. So I don't know. It's interesting. He's not necessarily my favorite driver. He may have driven my favorite truck, but he's not really my favorite driver. But I don't loathe him anymore, and I've gone back to respecting him as a person. So that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I would really like it if they brought this truck back. I just don't think they're going to. It would do really well on the Monster Jam circuit, but doubt it would happen. Anyway, before I stop this video, let me Let me go ahead and show you a few other trucks that I actually have downloaded. Let me go ahead and remove this one. Get new vehicle. Let's go ahead and focus on who Monster Patrol was competing against in that finals in Portland, and this is Barefoot. Give you a better look at this. Nothing was really too flashy about this truck. I didn't really like it back in the day, although I do have some really good memories of driving this thing in Monster Truck Madness 2, which is still, pretty much our only good Monster Truck video game. This kind of doesn't count. It's sort of made into a Monster Truck video game by fans. Someone did a pretty good job of it. It seems very, very wide, maybe a little bit wider. Maybe a little bit wider wheelbase than the actual truck, but overall pretty decent job on the truck. That went a lot better than expected. I'm honestly kind of curious. I'm not sure what happened to this truck. I don't really see it around anymore. I'm possibly thinking that it might still be in the other circuit, the circuit that Bigfoot likes to run in a lot. And Bigfoot, if you're wondering what happened there, Bigfoot and Feld Motorsports had some sort of really stupid argument, and I blame both of them for this. It's not just like, oh, big company being a dick. The guy that owns Bigfoot, he just refuses to talk to him. Now, the main argument, and this is seriously it, the biggest argument about it was they were arguing over, I think it was like rights for the images over the truck. Not over the truck itself, just for the pictures they took at the actual events. That was like it. And in my opinion, it's just like, dude, that's just stupid. Just shut the hell up and run in the circuit. And both of them, companies have a habit of being greedy, so I'm not really putting the blame strictly on anyone. I'm blaming both of them for it. But I'd like to see the Bigfoot truck back, especially with how the Bigfoot truck looks now. The Bigfoot truck nowadays looks actually really, really cool. They changed the design. It doesn't look like I really didn't care for Bigfoot back in the day, to be honest, because it just looks like your generic pickup truck. Like, nothing about that really looks interesting to me. It just kind of looks bland. But the new Bigfoot now kind of looks more like the Raptor design. It looks real cool, so yeah, I'd like to see that make its way back into the Monster Jam circuit, but that's never going to happen. So yeah, that's Barefoot. Let me go ahead and grab another one of the old trucks I managed to find. I tried to find a Bust and Loose truck, but unfortunately none of them work, which is really, really disappointing. Let me go ahead and look through here. As you can see here, I have a lot of trucks downloaded. There's a Black Stallion, Blue Thunder. Aha, I know a truck. So my game crashed as soon as I went to select that truck, but I went ahead and fixed the issue. Let's go ahead and look at the Sting truck. This is one of the older trucks that I actually really liked. Now, there's two different kinds of Sting trucks. There's the Stinger truck, and then there's the Sting truck. And I'm going to focus on the Sting truck. For some reason, there's no engine noise for this truck. I don't know why. It was working fine earlier, but it doesn't seem to be working quite like it's supposed to now. But hey, I wanted to focus on this truck anyway. Not too important. I'll fix that later. And yeah, this truck was one of those trucks back in the early 2000s that I really, really liked. Someone did a pretty good job at remaking the Sting truck. And this is back when I first started watching trucks. This is the early 2000s is really when I got into monster trucks, so a lot of the trucks like Sting, Gunslinger, Sudden Impact, stuff like that is around the time that I really, really started to watch it. A lot of the old guys are probably yelling at me right now going, you don't care about Bigfoot, you're a dumb kid, doesn't matter. And I can flip it back over. There is a way to actually flip over these trucks by not resetting it. That really should not work. So yeah, Sting truck. Pretty cool that someone remade this. although it is eerily quiet. It controls pretty well. And let's go ahead and focus on the next truck I wanted to show you, and this will be the last one. Now, I kind of mentioned this, but the early version of Sudden Impact, just the plain blue Sudden Impact, I do have the new one, which I don't think I have a picture of yet. It has this sort of decal on it. I prefer to have this one, just because, this is the Sudden Impact I got to know, and yes, engine sounds are back. This is the Sudden Impact I really got to know. The new one technically looks cooler, but I don't know, it's just cool to have this old Sudden Impact truck back. This one also handles much differently than the new one because he uses the old coilover shocks. And in this game, that means it's going to... It actually does. Like, the way the trucks react depends on truck to truck entirely. Like, this one, a lot of the times I notice when I go over jumps, instead of just plain going straight up and down, like, say that, it tends to land more front forward instead, just because of the way the shocks react. And I really do like this game for being so flexible on what you can do for the physics. And it's entirely free. Like you see there, most other trucks would have just gone straight up and down. Let's go ahead and get some in-cockpit driving. This is one of the few games where I think it's actually easier to drive in the cockpit than out of it. Although sometimes there's sometimes there's really not much you can do. Alright, so I think that's pretty much about enough. All I really wanted to show off. I actually started making this specifically. I can't really tell while I'm driving with this camera angle. I started making this specifically for the Monster Patrol truck because, like I said, that is my favorite truck. It does mean a little bit, not really personal to me, but it does mean a bit more than the other trucks just because it's kind of what really made me like monster trucks as a whole. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, so that should be the end of the video. I hope you all have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next video.